Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines we have for you. Brian Brooks lands in a new spot. We're going to talk about it. Visa ahead pushes back about crypto. You're going to want every bit of that. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase says U.S. risk falling behind. You're going to want to hear what he has to say. And Rosie Rios, Ripple advisor, board member, is going to talk to us about how the money makes the world go round. And this is more about utility. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter for exclusive content. Right now, $1.12 trillion market cap for crypto. It's off by 1.5%. Good afternoon, everybody. Bitcoin, 23,300 plus right now. Ethereum, 1634 and change. Tether market cap, 71 plus billion, they're saying here. 37 cents for XRP. It's off by 4.4%. Let's get started right here because I want to lay this out. I haven't talked about this in a while. And I want to give it to you this way. So let me do that really quickly here. So first of all, 2023 is shaping up to be a year of lost wealth because everybody feels like the economy is really going from bad to worse. I'm inclined to agree with them. And this survey basically right here has revealed more than half of Americans who have six-figure incomes are now living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that is really mind-blowing when you think about it. If you think about it on that level, even college-educated young people, high-paying jobs are struggling to pay for basic stuff, rent, car payments, you get the rest of it. Now, combine that with tens of thousands of people laid off in the last few weeks alone. You can see that here from this article. Jerome Powell now actively trying to bring labor markets to a screeching halt, which nobody's happy with. It's pretty hard to feel secure in your job. What's clear is that a financial storm is brewing and nobody is safe. At least that's how it feels. Well, now, if we look at this, we get more sentiment that speaks to that from Goldman Sachs, saying stock market's basically going nowhere for the rest of the year. So, look, if you think hedge fund CEOs and financial titans are letting their money just sit in savings accounts and a 60-40 portfolio, you could think again, pouring hundreds of millions into assets that aren't necessarily correlated to the stock market, because even if the stock market flatlines this year as they expect, these low correlation assets can continue to climb higher and higher. And I'm going to show you evidence of that right now, because what am I talking about? You guys know I talk about it. I love it. It's Masterworks. Invest in multi-million-dollar paintings. Attractive historical price appreciation. Buy and sell shares on trading platform. Receive proceeds with the painting sells. Look at the net annualized track record here. 32% on Banksy, 378 days held. 27%. Look at this. If I go down a little further, just to show you this chart over the last 25 years, we know green is contemporary art Masterworks. Now, you tell me if the numbers are lying, because it looks pretty much like true bombs are happening right here. This is truth bombs being dropped, ladies and gentlemen. Comparatively to the S&P, real estate, and gold, artwork, contemporary artwork over the last 25 years is outperforming everything. And during a time like this, you need to know about it. Make sure you click the link underneath the video and see if it's right for yourself. Brian Brooks, he's got a new home. Hbar Foundation, congratulations to them. Boy, Brian Brooks is a smart one. We're honored to announce that former acting comptroller of currency at the U.S. and Coinbase chief legal officer has joined their board. Oh my, oh my. He will enable us in our mission to accelerate Hedera's ecosystem and establish the trust layer of the internet. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? I'm very excited to see Brian Brooks' contribution here. This is something else that's new that I told you guys I've been following, and I am going to the mainnet launch in Los Angeles with Bob Ross and Fabio and Reza and the rest of the team there. Man, am I excited to learn more about this. There's only 26 days left, and I am super excited to find out more. But I'll tell you something else I was shocked about, too. Look how, this was February 16th. They had 76 validators, and now they're over 100. So I'm really looking to learn more and see what's going on in the way of who's building on it, what's happening. And I do know, stably, USDS stable coin on the XRP ledger is working with Corium smart contract technology as well. That is extremely promising to me. Visa head of crypto pushes back on claims of cutting off crypto partnership. There was an article that came out, and it was Reuters, if my memory serves me correctly. I don't even need to go into this because we know Visa bought Currency Cloud and Earthport and everything else they're tied into. They are absolutely going to be using distributed ledger technology, blockchain, and cryptos that work in the payment sector for their benefit. They know what's coming better than anybody, and the Visa head pushes back on exactly that. And here we have Brian Armstrong from Coinbase says the U.S. risks falling behind. I want you to take a listen to this.
I think new legislation is needed. And the reason is that if you look at Americans, 80% of them feel like the current financial system doesn't work for them. You know, the fees are too high, the delays are there, it doesn't serve everybody equally. And it's not surprising, by the way, you know, the current financial system is built on 40-year-old technology. Some of the laws have been around for 100 years before the internet even existed. And so, you know, my belief is that cryptocurrency is actually the most important technology that can help update the financial system. And what's really cool to see is that actually the user base of crypto, you know, advocates out there, there's 1 in 5 households in the U.S. are now using crypto. They're actually coming together and starting to get organized and saying, we want to elect candidates across 435 congressional districts that will help create this industry here in America safely.
Do you think realistically we are closer to regulation? Becky and I and Joe were talking about this earlier. And, you know, it feels like we're closer, but also feels like maybe we're just as behind as we were 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I've been spending more and more time in D.C., and what's great to see is that there is strong bipartisan support for legislation. I think everybody saw what happened with FTX, and they said, okay, we need to make sure there's strong consumer protection. We also recognize that there's innovation potential here, and we don't want this to be like 5G or something like that, you know, the semiconductor industry that got moved offshore too much. We need this to be built here in America with strong consumer protection. So there's at least 3 different groups I'm aware of in D.C., senators that are working on different bills being drafted in various different forms. And, you know, it takes a small miracle anytime something actually becomes law, but I'm excited to see that there's people who are passionate about that, making that happen. And I think the voters in America want to see that. They're going to elect candidates coming up who are going to advocate for that.
So what do you tell the crypto critics? And I'm thinking Senator Elizabeth Warren, she has said the following. She says, we have money laundering rules that cover banks and credit unions and stockbrokers and gold dealers and even Western Union, but current rules don't cover big parts of the crypto industry, and crypto likes it that way. Is she right?
No, that's just simply not true. I mean, Coinbase is a great example of this. I started this company more than 10 years ago now. And I started it in the United States for a reason. I believed that this needed to be built here in a compliant and regulated way. So we've actually been regulated for about 10 years now. I mean, we initially sought out money transmission licenses here in the U.S. because that was the closest thing we could find to a license that made sense. We've since gone beyond that. I mean, we got one of the first BIT licenses in New York. We're regulated by the CFTC, a federal regulator here. We registered with FinCEN. And by the way, that's just in America. So the U.S. risks really being left behind here a little bit. You know, the rest of the world is actually moving and trying to draw crypto companies in. You know, London and Singapore and Hong Kong and the financial hubs of the world are saying we want crypto to be built here. Europe just passed comprehensive crypto legislation. And so the U.S. really risks falling behind.
What do you say?
Well, there you have it. And the U.S. does really risk falling behind. But you know what? Why don't we come together? Because Crypto Law and John Deaton have been doing this for years now. Think about the hundreds of thousands of people that have used Connect to Congress here. You know, I encourage Brian Armstrong to really come together with Crypto Law and John Deaton. We're stronger together, ladies and gentlemen. That much I can guarantee you. And there's no reason why they can't put those efforts together and really, I think just explode the impact here. And by the way, I want you to watch this video here because this video is just unbelievable when it explains the history of somebody like Gary Gensler. And how is it that someone with this kind of background that you're about to hear about is allowed to make and craft the direction of the SEC and use regulation by enforcement to really create these precedents to control cryptocurrency space? Take a listen to this guy's background here. It's disturbing.
Gensler, the head of the SEC, is someone who was heavily involved in the Russia hoax. In fact, he was the guy who helped to finance the Russia hoax. He was the treasurer of the Clinton campaign back in 2016. We investigated all of this in 17 and 18. And look, we found out that he was the guy who made the payments to a law firm who then moved it on to Fusion GPS. I think all of your viewers know that story.
Now that, I mean, just on that alone, right? If that, look, I don't care about either side of the aisle. I just care about if somebody's obviously, not above board, they got to go. That's why I always say just vote out whoever's in there, just to keep fresh people moving through, right? Because there's something about power in humans, right? When they get access to power, man, some it's just like they say about sheriffs, a badge changes a man. You know what I mean? It's, maybe it just reveals them. So I don't know, but take a listen.
Now, look, how can a guy who I investigated, who clearly funded a dossier to target Donald Trump owns True Social, as I think most people know, how can that guy be in charge of this? But look, just to go even deeper, if you want to go know how deep this gets, it happens to be that Peter Strzok, who we also investigated, who was the FBI man in charge, who actually investigated the Russia hoax and helped to create the Russia hoax in many ways, and who was ultimately fired from the FBI, his wife also is one of the top people at the SEC. Now, look, we've asked simple questions. Why are these people involved? How can they possibly be unbiased?
I think that speaks to whether it's the right side of the aisle, left side of the aisle. It doesn't matter, right? This kind of incestuous, private, government, public relationships, something needs to be done, okay? And maybe it's me at 51, and, well, of course, I've always believed it was this way. Who am I kidding? But the reality is that when you get older, it just becomes more apparent that just how disturbing all of this connections and how the government really runs is not the way you're taught in civics class in school. That much I can guarantee you. I've witnessed it firsthand myself. Then there's this great comment here by Bill Morgan. Boy, we're getting ready here from Rosie Rios. Don't you go a place. You're going to be sorry if you leave now. He says, this is what regulators must target. Deliberate frauds and scams instead of the SEC's judgment motion in the Ripple case and the SEC uses against Ripple. The fact that Ripple relies on to claim it has been a good steward of XRP and trying to show the Howey test applies. I completely agree. It's like, why are all of these, the FTXs of the world, allowed to continue, allowed to go on, right? And speaking of which, that's what reminded me of this, because I actually tagged it. Bill agreed. Just like the Fire token rug pull or scam or whatever its technical word is. Why is something not being done here by the SEC? I would love it if a legal analyst in this space is interested in finding out more. I'd try to connect you with the multiple people that have sent me just nightmarish stories about the money they have lost and how they've been hurt. It's horrible. It's absolutely despicable. We'll see what happens. Now, we're about to hear from Rosie Rios, but I want to remind people here that John Deaton has said very clearly, and I think he's spot on here. And I'm speaking outside of the case, and I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, so is John Deaton. Outside of the SEC versus Ripple case, we will not get regulatory clarity before the first quarter of 2025. Best case scenario is likely the summer of 2025. This is a fact, not an opinion. A well-organized, adequately funded, and strategic campaign is a must. And that's why I point to the Brian Armstrong video from Coinbase, and the reason that I believe that he needs to get much closer with John Deaton and unite his money and backing with what John Deaton has already gotten done. There could be an enormous leap for getting attention to these issues with those two coming together. I just think it could be remarkable. Now, the moment you've been waiting for, it's Rosie Rios. I want you to hear all of this. She's going to start off talking about, the importance of FSOC, Financial Stability Oversight Council, and then goes on to talk about Ripple XRP and about how it is important, will be used, and the utility is really what we're talking about these days. And boy, do we know that XRP's got it in spades. Take a listen.
directs and coordinated action across agencies to mitigate illicit financing, promote safe and affordable financial services, and explore, yes, a U.S. central bank digital currency. Now, you may know that over 80% of developed countries right now are looking at a central bank digital currency. It will happen, and it will happen in the U.S., but it is absolutely going to take some time. As you know, things don't happen very, very quickly, especially when it comes to the central bank. Now, they are taking this very, very seriously. The U.S. currency is a world reserve currency, so it is important for them to get this right. But I guess my point to that would be I wouldn't hold your breath anytime soon. It is going to take a considerable amount of time because it is a world reserve currency. It's accepted everywhere before the Federal Reserve actually decides to back a central bank digital currency. It absolutely will take some time. So over the past year, the agencies across the government have worked together to develop frameworks and policy recommendations that advance the 6 priorities identified in that executive order. The Financial Stability Oversight Council, which the Secretary of the Treasury chairs, published a report just this last October that examined the potential financial stability implications of crypto asset activities. As you know, crypto has been in the news time and time again, and I just want to share that I am on the board of Ripple. Ripple is XRP. And so when people ask me the question, why did you join the board of Ripple? I joined the board of Ripple because XRP serves a purpose. It's a function that facilitates cross-border payments. It's not some store of value, kind of arbitrary value that is not pegged to anything. This is actually what legitimate financial institutions use specifically for cross-border payments. So instead of days and dollars, it's seconds and cents. And that is the future, in my opinion. And again, this is a function. So this utility piece, when it comes to crypto, is very, very important. Again, there's no doubt in my mind that digital assets are becoming mainstream. Absolutely no doubt. And for me, it is that underlying technology that's important. It is blockchain. So, of course, we all know what blockchain is. And blockchain is not going away anytime soon. In my opinion, it absolutely is the future of commerce. Whether it is real estate, whether it is art, whether it is NFTs, it is absolutely here to stay. And so it's very, very important for the administration to get this right. It will take some time. And obviously what we experienced with FTX is just the beginning. Unfortunately, the FTX debacle really put the antenna up, the radar up on what to expect in the future. And I think there's going to be a lot more caution. And look, you know, we shouldn't let one person in what has been considered kind of an unregulated industry take the fall for everyone. This is, you know, in every industry, whether you're regulated or not, there will always be bad actors. But unfortunately...
And by the way, that bad actor was issued a broker-dealer's license from what I believe to be another bad actor at the SEC, Gary Gensler. Keep listening.
In this case, because crypto is still very nascent, it will absolutely kind of pause a lot more in terms of how to approach this the right way. As you heard the minister say, there's no doubt in my mind that innovation should not be stymied by regulation. Absolutely not. But there is a way that, in my opinion, that regulators can work hand in hand with the private sector. It has to happen early. It has to happen very, very early. If you heard me speak this morning at the Leadership Council, I talked about how important it is for the conversations to happen early and often, and they have to sustain themselves. And so, you know, for me, I stayed in the administration as long as I did, for 8 years, because I wanted to make sure that those conversations as a senior government official start and continue through. And that's very important in any administration, is to have that stability and that consistency. And that's what I think it's going to take for the crypto market, and in this case, you know, digital assets in general, to really take hold. But I do think there is a path forward. I do think there is a path forward, and I do think it is going to take again, a lot of patience with the private sector, but I also think it's going to take a lot of interaction with the private sector. And again, from my perspective, that utility is going to be the key, not just about perceived value that's going to be up and down based on some arbitrary floating values. Utility is going to be a big part of this. And I do think, again, because a lot of this innovation is generating the jobs that it's going to take for this recovery to be on track, that the administration needs to continue to invest in this, not pull back, but invest further, invest the time and care that's going to take for the right regulations, the right bills to be introduced, and again, how these assets can be utilized to benefit all of Main Street, not just the investors, but the users themselves. And I still will continue to play a very pivotal role in this. I am absolutely engaged, again, not just on the private sector side, but on the policy side. And it is my commitment moving forward, because in my opinion, money does make the world go round, but this is really more about jobs, this is more about utility, and this is more about the future of commerce and how we think about using technology in a responsible way. Thank you.
And there you have it. And shout out to Plan XRP for that clip originally, and Crypto Dem for sending it to me. You know, what I heard in there were important points where she distinguishes between speculation, up and down volatility, and real utility and use case of something like XRP, which makes me wonder, ultimately, how does this shake out in a court and this ruling with the SEC versus Ripple? We don't know. I'm speculating. Who knows? We'll wait. We'll see. It shouldn't be far away. It is March. It could be any day. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives.